side of the Great Pyramid is an equilateral triangle which faces exactly to the true north, south, east. Each side of the base of the Great Pyramid, the length is 365.2422 cubits in length. The angle of the slope of the pyramid rises at 10 to 9. That is, for every 10 feet you go up, you rise in altitude by 9 feet. And if you take the height of the Great Pyramid, multiply it by 10 to the power of 9, you get 91,840,000, which just happens to be the exact distance from the Earth to the Sun in miles. It's almost in the exact dead center of the world. It intersects the 30th parallel, both longitude and latitude. There's enough stone in it to build a 6-foot wall from New York to Los Angeles.
Wow.
If it were a pyramid, it would be if it were a skyscraper, it would be 42 stories high, which meant that it was the tallest building in the world for thousands and thousands of years. The solution to the mathematical problem of how to square the circle is incorporated in the geometry of the Great Pyramid. But what we've been asked to believe is that ancient Egyptians, or primitive man, if you want, running around the desert, dressed in animal skins, built this incredible monument, which we couldn't build today, by the way, with all the money and machinery we have. We couldn't do it. Yet we're asked to believe that these guys built this, yet somehow they hadn't figured out how to invent the wheel. Now that's a bit like saying if you give a screwdriver to a chimpanzee, he's going to make a television set for you. So there's something.
Go ahead. I was just going to ask you, so who do you think built the pyramids?
Well, I've no doubt that it was built by these guys called the Nephilim, who are mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. In the Bible, it says there were Nephilim in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. These Nephilim, as I say, are what you and I would call fallen angels, but they're spirit men. They're men, but of a spirit nature. We do not know what spirit is, but we look like them, they look like us. That's why it says several times in Genesis, let us make man in our image. And these spirit men fell. Nephilim means the fallen ones, hence fallen angels. They fell from heaven, fell to earth, and fell from grace. They had sex with ordinary human mortal women and produced offspring, which were the giants of the Old Testament and of many of the traditions from all around the world, the giants that we get in all these historical writings that are left before.
So is it possible that the Bible was not actually written by God, but was written by the Nephilim?
No. The Bible was absolutely written by 40 different writers, but it has one author. The author is God. But it talks about these Nephilim in many places in the Old Testament, and it also talks about them in the book of Revelation.
Right.
And it refers to them in a few places in the Gospels. It's just that nobody has ever put it together, fit all the jigsaw pieces together. Like, for instance, Rob, when it talks about the Greek gods coming down from heaven, they lived in Mount Olympus and Delphi. Zeus came down, he took Alcmene to wife, a mortal woman. She almost died giving birth to Hercules. That's where all this stuff comes from. You put that together with the scriptural stuff and then tie in the book of Enoch, which I've done in my last 2 books. And the book of Enoch is incredible because it gives huge chunks that are missing from the Old Testament are in the book of Enoch, where it talks about these watchers or fallen angels coming down from heaven, and it describes them. It even says that they had privy members like horses. That is, they were hung like horses. They got penises like horses. And I even have pictures of a couple of these guys from ancient Egypt in my book, The Nephilim and the Pyramid of the Apocalypse. I've got a picture of a guy there who's the god Min. And this is an incredible engraving from a temple in Greece. Looks like a photograph of a guy. It's done so well.
So I guess this is where the expression hung like a horse comes from.
Yeah, it is, except these guys are hung like horses. And it actually mentions in one of the Old Testaments, when it's talking about the princes of Egypt, it says that it refers to them being hung like horses, literally. And this guy is the god Min, M-I-N. And when I put his photograph in my book, I was tempted to say, this is the god Min in Egypt. And I was tempted to put in brackets, if this is Min, I wouldn't like to meet his brother, Max. But these are the guys who built the thing. And the Great Pyramid of Giza, you see, what is it a sign of and what is it a witness to? Just to finish off on that, Rob. If you jump into the Gospel of John, the Messiah said a very, very well-known verse of Scripture. You'll hear that at funerals all the time. He said, in my Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. So he talked about this place he was going to prepare a place in the house of many mansions. Again, Paul refers to it. He talks about we have an eternal house in heaven whose builder and architect was God. Then in the book of Hebrews, it talks about Abraham, who looked for a city in heaven whose builder and maker is God. Again, in Hebrews later on, it talks about you've come unto Mount Zion, the city of God, the New Jerusalem. You get into the book of Revelation, again, it talks a few times about the New Jerusalem. And then at the end of the book of Revelation, in chapter 20, it talks about a new heaven and a new earth. And it describes this city, the New Jerusalem. It tells us all the different stones it's made out of. It tells us that the river of life flows out from the middle of it. It says it's got 12 gates made out of a single pearl each. It says the water of life is there for the healing of the nations. And after this lengthy description, it gives us the dimensions of this future city. And it says its length and its breadth and its height are the same. I believe that is a pyramid in shape. So when the prophecy in Isaiah says that the altar and pillar or the Great Pyramid in Giza is going to be sign and a witness to something in the last days, what I am saying is that the Great Pyramid of Giza, originally finished in a polished white limestone, is a replica of the celestial city, the New Jerusalem, Mount Zion, the city of God, the place where the Messiah went to, where he is now, going to prepare a place for us, and that this is a pyramid in shape. So we have the Great Pyramid of Giza pointing into the future at this future pyramid city, the New Jerusalem, and we've got the New Jerusalem, the city of God, pointing back at the Great Pyramid of Giza. There is a connection between the two, and that is what that enigmatic prophecy in Isaiah 19, verses 19 and 20 is about. The only thing I believe, Rob, is that the fallen angels, the devil, Lucifer and his princes, when they fell to earth, you know, somebody said that the devil never had an original idea. He always copies or imitates or apes what the true God does. So when these guys fell to earth, they built this incredible pyramid right in the middle of the world, white shining limestone with all its astronomical and mathematical associations. But they built this as an earthly representation of the celestial city that they had come from. It's an earthly representation of the New Jerusalem, which is in this parallel universe where these other gods live. The Messiah sitting on the right hand of his Father, who we call the Most High God, surrounded by a whole bunch of these other spirit men. We call them angels, like Gabriel and Michael, and 24 elders sitting on 24 thrones. We don't know who they are, but that is what the Great Pyramid represents. But I believe it was built by the fallen angels, the Nephilim, as a monument to their own pride, their own ego.
Why do you think the pyramid was built in Egypt and not somewhere else in the world?
Well, I mean, there's lots and lots of pyramids in the world besides Egypt. I don't know, you were in Mexico, if you saw the Pyramid of the Sun and those other incredible pyramids down there, which are just amazing. Yeah. But I don't know why exactly Egypt, but I do know that it's almost the dead center of the world. It's only about 20 miles off the actual dead center of the whole world. Maybe that has something to do with it. I know that the four star shafts align with four stars. Maybe that has something got to do with it. Perhaps the Nile is a representation of the Milky Way, because we're told that where the pyramids are situated, those three pyramids are supposed to be a reflection of Orion's belt. So those are just questions I don't have the answers to, but we do know that these guys are very well associated with the stars and the precession of the equinoxes and the prophecies in the stars. Because it says in Genesis that the stars were given for signs and for seasons. And the whole of this history of man from Genesis to Revelation are written in the stars. We have lost all that knowledge now, Rob. I'm sure if we had the knowledge that, for instance, the Magi, the Zoroastrian monks from Persia, who were able to study the stars, I knew by the conjunctions and the alignments that were happening there between Virgo, the Virgin, Leo, the King, who's the Messiah, Jesus, serpents, the serpent, Draco, the dragon, and all the other things, they knew that the Messiah was going to be born, and it led them to Bethlehem. In the same way, I'm sure they will pretend things that are going to happen in our very near future. But because we've lost all that knowledge, we're probably going to miss the boat on that. But these guys know about it.
So tell me, what's the story on the Antichrist? Are we in the end times? How do we know if and when the Antichrist is coming? And how do we know that this is really true?
Well, I'll tell you how we know it's true. It's because about 30% of the Bible is prophetic, maybe more, maybe up to 40% of the Bible is prophetic. It's the only book in the world that is actually prophetic. It tells you things that are going to happen before they do. So then the veracity and truthfulness is borne out by the fulfillment, or if it's not fulfilled, then you can throw it away and read, War and Peace or Ulysses or something. But the point is that many of your listeners will have seen that movie, The Passion of the Christ.
Sure.
In the last 24 hours of the life of the Messiah, 25 specific prophecies came to pass that were all written hundreds and hundreds of years BC. For instance, I'll give you a few. It said he was going to be betrayed by his friend, that he would be betrayed for 30 pieces of silver, that his friend would use the money to buy the potter's field, that his friend would commit suicide, that he'd be crucified with thieves and robbers, that they would stick a spear in his side and blood and water would come out, that they would gamble over his seamless robe, etc., etc. 25 specific prophecies in one 24-hour period. In fact, the Messiah fulfilled 106 specific prophecies in his life. All the other prophecies that were given in prior to the Messiah coming in throughout the Old Testament all have come to pass with 100% accuracy to date. Not one of them has missed out. And the one, of course, with regard to the end times, Rob, is regard to the Jews. Many prophecies said the Jews would be kicked out of Palestine, scattered all over the face of the world, and everywhere the Jews would go, they would be persecuted and despised and hated. And that happened in 70 AD when Titus, a Roman general, sacked Jerusalem, slaughtered about 1 million Jews. The rest of them were scattered over the four corners of the world, hence the wandering Jew. They were hated and persecuted everywhere they went, which culminated the Holocaust in Germany in the Second World War. But many other prophecies said in the last days, God would regather his chosen people and establish them back in Palestine for the last time, for the second, in fact the third and last time, and that he would do this as a sign to the rest of the world that we were in the last generation. In fact, one prophecy said that would happen in one day. And on one day back in May 1948, the Brits went into the UN with a mandate or proposal that Israel be made a nation state again. It was backed up by the Yanks. So literally in one day, Israel became a nation state again.
All right, stand by, Patrick. We've got to take our final break here. Patrick Heron is our special guest. Dr. Patrick Heron, that is. www.neph.ie. That's www.neph.ie. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
That caused me to stray from the land, far away from me friends and relations.
With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. MATSTEIN.com.